Assalamu alaikum, dear students. It is 9th of June 2021. It's class 12th, subject education. Dear students, as you know, we are discussing the role of different famous institutions in the development of education in Jammu and Kashmir. And yesterday we discussed the role of Anjuman Nusratul Islam in the development of education in J&K. And today we are going to discuss the role of Dogras, contribution of Dogras to the development of education in Jammu and Kashmir. Dear students, Dogras, as you know, were Indo-Aryan ethnic group in South Asia. They speak their own language, Dogri, which was recognized as one of the national languages of India in 2003. Dear students, Dogra dynasty was a dynasty of Hindu Rajputs who ruled Jammu and Kashmir from 1846 to 1947. Dear students, among the enlightened rulers of Jammu and Kashmir were Maharaja Gulab Singh, 1846 to 1856, Maharaja Rambir Singh, 1856 to 1885, Maharaja Pratap Singh, 1885 to 1925, and Maharaja Hari Singh, 1925 to 1947. These rulers, in their period of rule, tried their best to uplift the education sector in Jammu and Kashmir. Especially the primary education was the focus of these rulers of this period, because it was the beginning of education in the state. The schools were not everywhere. We can say there were areas where school was just a dream. There were no institutions, or we can say the formal institutions, to impart education. And these rulers, in the period of their rule, tried to develop the education sector in Jammu and Kashmir. And today we are going to discuss the contribution of Dogras to the development of education in Jammu and Kashmir, with special reference to primary education. Dear students, before the introduction of the Western system of education in the state, the indigenous schools, pathshalas and madrasas were run by the members of the Hindu and Muslim communities and generally housed in temples and mosques. The places well known for some good indigenous schools were Srinagar in the Kashmir province and the Jammu city, Parmandal and Uttar Behni in the Jammu province. The hectic literary activity during Rambir Singh's regime received life and vigor from his personal interest and care about this aspect of the cultural life of the people of the state. Maharaja Rambir Singh, who ruled this state from 1857 to 1885, did not establish any school on the western lines, but his son and successor Maharaja Pratap Singh established one such school in the very first year of his regime, that is 1886. Then forward more and more schools were the Western type of education was imparted were opened. These modern schools were divided into three categories, that is primary, middle and high school. The high school the high schools prepared the students for the matriculation examination of the Punjab University to which these institutions were affiliated. Great attention was paid by the state government to furnish its schools with qualified teachers. Special grants were budgeted for the training of unqualified teachers at the training college and the normal school at Lahore. But this caused great expense to the Darbar, and teachers from Srinagar generally avoided going to distant and hot place like Lahore for training purposes. Hence, a normal school was opened in Srinagar in 1903 and 4 for their training. In 1912 and 1913, the Darbar sanctioned special grants for the training of the qualified teachers at the local normal school and the college at Lahore. A new state normal school was opened at Jammu in 1922 and 1923. This saved the local teachers from going outside for training. The teachers' training school tremodoled on the lines envisaged in the reorganization committee's report was started in Srinagar with effect from 1st Kartik 1995. The former normal school at Udhampur, which trained teachers, was abolished. In addition to the basic school opened in Batmalu, another basic school was opened in Jammu city, which also did quite credible work. On September 2, 1940, a BT class was opened in the Prince of Wales College, Jammu, and 30 graduates were admitted. Formally, 10 graduate teachers on an average were deputed annually for BT. Thus, an important landmark was reached in the progress of secondary education in the state, and a long felt want was met. The training college, Jammu, was constituted. The training college, Jammu, was constituted, did good work, and in couple of years after its start, attained a standard of work in the year from 13th April 1944 to April 1945. The state government opened a teachers training school at Jammu on the lines of the Srinagar teacher training school to meet the increased demand for trained teachers in basic education. To ensure a good state of health to the students, physical instructor was given in every school. These were drill teachers attached to the high school. The state government encouraged technical education in the interest of people and established Amar Singh Technical Institute in Srinagar on November 1913, and which was formally opened by Maharaja Pratap Singh next year on 29th May. In 1924, another technical institute under the name of Shri Pratap Singh Technical School was opened at Jammu. So far, there were only two technical schools in the state, one at Srinagar and another at Jammu. Adult education was introduced in the state by the Darbar in the year 1938 and 1939, keeping in view the fact that even the advanced provinces and state of India were very backward in the education of females. Same was the condition of Jammu and Kashmir. In the discrimination of female education in the state, the contribution of the private enterprises was more than that of the government agency. Gurmat Kenya Pathshala was the first girls' school in the Jammu city. In Srinagar, the first girls' school on the modern lines was established during the early 90s of the last century by one of the Christian mission ladies. The state government also entered the arena and opened between 1911 and 1921 three secondary girls' schools. There being no government school for girls before 1911. The Darbar took further steps in the direction of popularizing the girls' education department. The measures had to a great expansion of the female education in the state, and within a period of 35 years, that is 1910 to 45, the number of schools reached 21 the number of schools reached 21,062. Kashmir has been internationally known for its old religious and historical and philosophical literature in Sanskrit, but there was no known local production of any literary merit worth mentioning. The only real literary activity in the state worth mentioning was created by the Indian newspaper and some books which came from the Punjab. No newspaper or periodical was published in the state itself till 1924, with the exception of the weekly official gazette and the magazines of the Jammu and Srinagar College. The magazines of the Prince of Wales College, Jammu, was entitled The Tavi, the first issue of which came out in 1913 and 1914. That of Shri Pratap College, Srinagar, was entitled The Pratap. The first number appeared in January 1916. Ladakh News, a monthly in Bodhi language on the current events, was first brought out in 1903 by the Moravian mission in Ladakh, but its publication caused in 1907. It was only in June 1924 that the first regular weekly in the state appeared from Jammu under the name of the Ranbir. It was the result of the joint efforts of Mr. Mulk Raj Saraf and Pandit Ganganath. It had the target circulation and the number of its reader was considerable in the state. In the year 1942, the Amar Singh Degree College, Srinagar, came into existence, and it started its magazine, the Lal Rukh. There were two public libraries in the state during the regime of the Dogra Maharaja, that is, Shri Pratap Singh Library, Jammu, and Shri Pratap Singh Library, Srinagar. The Shri Ranbir Library, Jammu, was founded by Maharaja Ranbir Singh in 1879 AD. The Shri Pratap Singh Library, Srinagar, was established at the desire of Maharaja Pratap Singh. Pratap Singh Library, in addition to books, as many as 33 newspapers and periodicals were subscribed for the Shri Ranbir Library and 36 for the Shri Pratap Singh Library during that period. Arrangements for education in the frontier districts of Gilgit and Ladakh were also made, and in this connection, primary and middle schools were opened during the Dogra rule. Prince of Wales College, Jammu, was inaugurated on the 20th of April 1907. The college was given this application in commemoration of the visit of the Prince of Wales to this place in 1905. At the time of the start, the college was housed in Ajaib Gar on 18 September 1912. The college was located in the new building erected for it outside the city on the north side of River Tavi. In the year 1905, a college was opened in Srinagar under the name of Shri Pratap Hindu College. The establishment of this college was the outcome of a great desire harbored by the Kashmiri Pandit for acquiring higher education. they could they could receive higher education only by joining a college at Lahore, which was a hot and far off place. Therefore, the necessity of college at Srinagar was felt. To meet this requirement, they enlisted the active support of Dr. Annie Besant, Besant, who personally came to Srinagar to inaugurate it. In July 1912, the then government took over the college and deleted the name Hindu from its name, and it was now called Shri Pratap Singh. On 14th June 1944, the Kashmir government established an intermediate college at Mirpur under the name of Karan Singh Ji College, but this college could remain in existence only for 3 years. In October 1944, the Maharaja government gave sanction for the opening of an intermediate arts college in the Punch Jagir Maharani Mahila College, Jammu, which was founded in June 1944 with the approval of the then Maharaja of the state, uh, Han Singh Ji. It was taken over by the state government on 19th November 1953 and renamed Government College for Women, Parade Ground, Jammu. With coming into existence of this college at Jammu, a long-standing desire of the citizens who wanted a separate college for girls fulfilled. In 1925, when Maharaja Hari Singh ascended the throne, there were two colleges in the state, one at Srinagar and the other at Jammu, and 706 other education institutions with a total roll of 44,601. The annual expenditure on education amounted to rupees 10.75 lakhs. The Srinagar College had to be bifurcated in 1942 into an intermediate and degree college, but then still rush was so heavy that several private colleges had to be established in, in existence to absorb the surplus student population. In Jammu, intermediate colleges were started in Mirpur and Punch to drain away part of the student population, while Mahila College in the city diverted the girl students to itself. The number of the college rose from 2 to 11. In 1930, the government promulgated the compulsory primary education and paid the attention towards basic primary, secondary, and adult education in the state. The teachers' training school was remodeled, was started in Srinagar in October 1938. Another teacher training school was opened in Jammu for BT classes. The drive against illiteracy met with great success. There were over 4,000 adult literacy centers in 1943 and about 55,000 adults were being made literate. Among 28,000 were granted literary certificates. Of these, 1,457 were women. In 1925, the number of primary schools was 706. It rose to 20,728 in 1945. Government paid the attention towards the physical education also during the period. Physical instructions and directors were accordingly attached to schools and colleges. Many steps were taken up for the education of backward communities and areas. Scholarships were granted and education was made free up to matriculation, and only a nominal fee was charged in the college. Special attention was paid towards female education in the state by the Maharaja Hari Singh. A special department for female education under a deputy director was set up. Free convenience was provided and callers appointed to collect girls from house to house and bearing them to schools. The state had now 35 girls' schools with a roll of 21,062 girls students. This includes several high and middle schools. Girl students were now joining its BT class and colleges of postgraduate courses. Christian missionaries also played a great role in the spread of education in Srinagar. Maharaja Han Singh could not remain influenced by the progressive and modern education activities of the church missionaries in Kashmir. In 1927, the Women's Welfare Trust Srinagar came into existence with brilliant intellectuals as its trustees. They established 6 primary schools and 3 middle schools in Srinagar. The number of students rose to 375. The trust also opened 3 schools for Muslim girls in Srinagar. All efforts were made for the advancement of education in the state during this period. Students, it is all for today. Inshallah, tomorrow we will take up some other topic. Till then, bye. Assalamu alaikum.